Welcome everyone to episode number 169 of Pro NoCoders Office Hours. I'm your host, Tonya. We're here with our members. Let's see here. We've got Jonathan and Thomas and Ben and Nahom. And I'm here also with Kim and Juan from the Pro NoCoders team. And we're going to get started in just a moment. But before we do, I wanted to make sure you know what Pro NoCoders Office Hours is. We do this every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And we just added this week a new session on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. And we would love to have you. What it is we invite our members of Pro NoCoders onto our Zoom. We broadcast them live for the first hour, and they can ask us any question they want about Bubble, and we try to answer it. We can't promise that we will answer it because we don't know all of the answers, but we do our best and we get it right a lot of the time, and we promise you won't suffer alone. So let's see, this evening we had a couple other members join in the meantime. Fabio, do you have any questions for us this evening?
Hey, good evening.
Hi.
I think I do.
Awesome.
Oh, good. How you guys doing? I do have a question.
Go for it.
So we're building a platform, and one of the things that we want to do for our users is to enable them to build different profiles. So similar to Facebook, when you log into Facebook, I can create my own profile. You can create your own profile, Tanya, right? How do we do that on Bubble? Like, how do we tell Bubble to, and I don't know if we need to use unique identifiers, but how do we tell Bubble to only display a certain user's data and not say my information, right?
Got it. Okay, sure. Yeah. So essentially, are you going to be showing this like on a profile page or a pop-up or something? Like how are you envisioning that it's going to be shown on the page?
Yeah, so just like Facebook. Yeah, so similar to Facebook, it's going to be a profile. It's going to be a user's profile. They're going to be able to log into the platform, provide their personal information, and then Bubble should then capture all the data and then display it in the form of profile.
Okay.
Just like that.
All right. So when they're signing up, you're going to have to collect the information, or you can collect it on an account page. So let's use the account page to show kind of how we collect it. And this is an example from Canvas. So if I go to, just waiting for it here.
Sorry, what is Canvas?
So Canvas is a template, and it's made by AirDev, and all of the AirDev apps. AirDev is, I think, the top no-code agency, especially for Bubble. And essentially, AirDev created Canvas to standardize their processes as they build apps for clients of their agency. And they have made it available for other people in the form of a Bubble template. And then they have an extension where you can once I register it, you can add different pages and different blocks to those pages. And it stays very consistent design wise. So you don't have to spend as much time designing for your app to begin with. So, and it comes with some pages here. So it comes with an admin portal, it comes with an account page, it comes with a legal page, it comes with the login. And then it has this page here. It also has a page builder. So you can do your landing pages outside of Bubble with the page builder. But I use it as a good example a lot of times just to kind of show like maybe best practices of how we might do things, because they have spent an enormous amount of time and energy and money and put a lot of resources into building Canvas. So
Yeah, even sorry, in addition to Tonya, they have some docs and they are for free, so anybody can go there and read about Canvas and best practices and each element, each page, each asset that they have, so you can know, okay, for example, you have an asset that is a kind of search bar or search page. They tell you how to implement it, and you can go further and read for better best practices. And yeah, I will post some links in the chat because maybe it is very good to check them.
Yep.
You will like them.
And then one thing to keep in mind is you cannot use Canvas unless you start your app from scratch on a Canvas template. So I'm not necessarily saying, oh, this is what you should do. You should go and like start all over and start with Canvas. I'm just using it because it's already built. It's easier for me to explain. So that's all. So in this case, an account settings page is where a user can come in and they can update their information. So one thing we might do is say want to add like a social media link here for Facebook or something, right? And you could add that in. When you click the Save Changes button, it's going to make changes to the current user. So right now I'm looking at my own profile and I'm changing my own profile. Your question is, how can I then show this profile to other users, right? I think, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
how do we tell Bubble in the back end to only display your information and not say, my information?
oh, that's a different question. You want it to, so that's using the term current user. If you're only wanting to show the information of the current user, anytime you are setting dynamic data on your page, you're looking at the current user. So an example would be, let's see, profile. So see how it's saying current users first and current users last. So this is how it's making sure that you're looking at current users. Now, are you asking a security question? Like, how can you make sure to protect user data?
I guess so. I guess it's both, right? Because in the process of only being able to display, say, my personal information. So I sign up, I create my profile, right? Now I have the option to log in, and I should only be able to see my information, right? My profile. I shouldn't be able to see Nahum's profile. So yeah, I guess it's both.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play around and showing like data. So I'm going to make a repeating group. And the repeating group is going to be of type user. I'll do a search for all users. And then I'm just going to share here the current cells, users, first, last. So first name and last name, right? Then I'm going to come into the data real quick, and I'm just going to check on my privacy rules. So right now the user has privacy rules applied. I'm going to take them off, right? So right now, anybody can see any user and all of their information there. It's not protected. There's no privacy rules, right? So when I did that, let's see, it doesn't really matter who I log in as because everyone can see everything else. So this is just going to show the 3 different users that I have on the platform, right? And I think I'm logged in as this one. This is me, right? So now I'm going to change some privacy rules and show you how that works. So if I define a new rule and say current user, and say current user is this user, then they can see everything. And then I'm going to take it off for everything else.
I see.
When sorry, when it says this user, maybe sometimes this was tricky in the past for me, so I wanted to to add something in top of that. It means like let's think in the cell, in each cell in your database. So if the current user is that cell in the database, so it is pointing to the to your data in that database, it will show it to you. But if you are another user, or you are trying to view another user's data, you will not be able to view it because you are not that user.
So let's see which user I am. Yep. So all I changed was the privacy rules, and now I can only see my profile. And that's the one that shows up, right? Now there's another way to do this. And that's to constrain the search on the page. And I would suggest that you do both. Use a combination of privacy rules and also constraints on your search. So I'm going to search for users, and I'm going to constrain the search where the unique ID equals the current user's unique ID, right? And then if I preview and I take my privacy rules off, so you can see the difference. It's the same, right? So no privacy rules. I just constrained the search on the list. The difference is there aren't any privacy rules now on the user data type. So someone who knows what they're doing can search the database and find that information, right? So we use privacy rules to make it so that they can't even search for that information unless they have a specific permission in your system, right? So the difference between what's visible on the page. So in this case, we didn't return anything except the current user, but the data type is left vulnerable, right? So then in terms of showing, and then generally you won't be using a repeating group to show one person's information. You would instead use a group to do that. Now there's another situation where you said you wanted it to be like Facebook, where I can go to a profile. I'm assuming you mean users will be able to see other users' information, but only certain information.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you meant, Fabio?
Yes.
Like private or public posts, for example.
Yeah, but I wasn't even thinking about that one. But yes, eventually we'll like to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a different workflow.
Okay, that would be on a different page.
Yeah, that would probably be a different page, different workflow.
Yeah.
Or
so
for
then,
example, sorry, for example, in the same page in the profile, you can show you, for example, only your picture and your name, like some profiles in Facebook. But when you are a friend of that person, you can view more data, like where you are working, or I don't know, past pictures or whatever. So also with that privacy rules that Tonya was explaining, you can display them too, or not for logged in users. I mean, you can be logged in, but you cannot view, for example, all the data of that profile. You can view only the picture and name. And if you are not logged in, maybe nothing. And when you are logged in, but you are in the list of friends of that person, you can view also more data, like the work, where was born, pictures, and other friends.
and it's a combination. I think the part that I want to make clear is it's a combination of what your constraints are, and a combination of what your inputs or your data that you're showing on the page, like your text fields and images, with the privacy rules that's going to make all of that work, right? So
got it. So one last thing, because I want to give other people a chance to ask their questions too. So you can only use, so under type of content, you can only use user for repeating groups. Is that?
no, you can use anything that that shows up here. So this is going to pull up any of your data types. It's going to pull up any of your option sets. And it'll have also these standard ones, text, number, and so forth.
Got it.
And then you'll also have some, if you have it checked as a data, let's see if I go into my plugins. So in the API connector and some other plugins, will make information available to you as a data type. So that would show up as well. So like in this case, this Twilio like would probably show up in my drop down here. Something having to do
Got
with
it.
that. Yeah.
But I can apply user to a group or a repeating group.
Or a page.
Or a page.
So
Got it.
you could set, so if you decide to set the type, the content type of a page, you're going to be required to send in a user profile to this page in order for it to display properly. So when I go into my workflow and I say, never mind that it's on page load, if I'm saying I want to navigate to the same page, you see how it turned red here and created an issue?
Yeah.
So I have to specify a user. So I can say current user, and then that will go away. But if I'm on the page here and I don't specify a data type, a content type, then I can come here and I can, it's not expecting a user. I can clear the expression and it will go away. Like it won't require that I send something to it. So a lot of Bubble is just how are you going to move information around the app so that it's accessible and that you're showing it and hiding the right things. And so.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No worries.
Let's-
In response to Ben, no, I haven't seen like new plugins for the new responsive engine. No, and no, for now, no. And maybe this will be updated. I think that Bubble is still working in some updates for that Bubble responsive engine. So yeah, I'm not sure if.
I don't know, maybe we'll do something.
Hmm.
I have my, maybe there's something in the works in that
How very
direction.
coy of
Ben.
you, Tonya.
So yeah, we're working on it, Ben.
Also, Fabio, when you have a type of data for the page, for example, in this case, the user, and you have attached it to this user as log, for example, your user have a unique ID that is a weird string of numbers and letters, but you can have also as log that can be like Fabio.Osorio. In the page, when you go to that page, we'll say the name of your domain / Fabio.Osorio, for example.
Yeah,
Like
so
in
if I make this here, let's see. If I make
And
this,
it will work also for products, like in Amazon or whatever, for SEO purposes. When you go there, you will have like the page for each record.
so in order to get this to work, I have to do it from another account. So I'll just call this the redirection page. Go to user profile info. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the redirection page first, so I can send the current user information into the other page I made. And you can see it's used the slug here in order to send the information to the page. So in Canvas, we use slugs automatically. Slugs and unique identifiers are almost synonymous with each other, although not Justin, Juan has discovered some bubble discrepancies with using slugs. But that's what happened. I told it to send in the current user's information into this page because this page was expecting it. And this is where that's showing up, is in the URL. And it's not quite a URL parameter, because a URL parameter includes a key value and then a value. So a key and equals value. It's not quite a URL parameter, but it is part of the URL, and that's part of how Bubble is transferring the information.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's helpful.
Yeah, and don't worry about taking up too much time, because we were hoping someone would have a question. We were waiting for you. So does anybody else have any other questions? No? Do you have any more, Fabio?
I do.
Then let's do it.
I came ready. So the other thing that we're trying to do is, and we haven't really thought it through completely. So maybe you can help us out with this a little bit. So one is, so the workflow that we're currently working on, we want to give the user the ability to create their own profile, right? And to do that, they have to enter, their personal information, which eventually, Bubble will take that and will store that data in the backend and then display it on the student's profile. But we want to give the student the ability to edit, right, that information if they, say they made a mistake, or, I added an extra O, right, to Osorio, for example. So one is we want to give them the ability to do that. And we don't know exactly how to go about, adding that to Bubble, or through Bubble, give people the ability to edit their profiles. That's one. And then two is, I was thinking, because normally when I'm on LinkedIn or another website, I click, I click on going back, or the back button, and when I go back to the previous page, I can still see my inputs, right? Mm-hmm. I've noticed that on Bubble, that's not the case. Bubble resets the previous inputs, I think, automatically. So two separate questions. One is, yeah. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll show you how we can tab a page, because I think if you let's just watch for a second here. We're going to do count and profile details, right? And then I'm going to have a group. I should be doing this in the new responsive. Oh, well, forgive me. I'm going to have this group here. And what I'm showing you is you could technically get away with doing like what you're talking about, having people actually go to different pages. But in Bubble, I think it's probably better to keep the information on the same page, just make it look like it's a different page, right?
Interesting.
Do you hear me? I can hear nobody.
I can hear you.
I've been muted
Okay.
this whole time.
Okay.
What? Nobody said anything? I've been talking this whole time. You're just watching me.
Yes, that was weird for me. And I
If
was
you
like,
if
maybe,
you don't hear me speaking, I cough quite often, and I mute myself. And so if I forget to unmute myself and you don't hear me, just say
I thought
Tonya's
that was my AirPods, and it was like, oh God.
No, it's most likely me. Okay, so what I've done this whole time, I'm gonna make an account page and a profile page, but I'm gonna do it on the same page. This is gonna be the account details group. This is gonna be the profile details group. And what I've done is I've made each group not visible on page load, and I've collapsed their height when they're hidden. And so then I'll come in here and I'll make one for an input here. This will be the profile details. So we'll just do like a Facebook link. So current users, I'm going to come down here and create a new field called Facebook. And we'll just make it a text. Okay. So now what I need to do is the only thing that will show up on the page to start at this point would be these two text elements, one that says account and one that says profile details. And I'm going to make on the click of the account text, which technically is probably a bad practice to put a click on the text. I should probably make it a button or a link. That way the browser knows what it's supposed to do. That's better for accessibility, which I'm going to start focusing on a bit more. But for now, we'll just use the text. So when this is clicked, I want to go to the page. It's going to be the same page. And I don't want to send, or yeah, I can send the current users fine. And then I want to send more parameters to the page. And I'm going to call it tab. And I'm going to say account. So this is where we're using URL parameters, where this is the key and this is the value. And this is the same page as the one that we're on, which is fine. And I'm still sending the current user in, but I'm changing the parameters to be account. Now, I'm going to create a conditional on this group that when I get data from the page URL called tab, and it is account, I want to make this element visible. And then I'm going to do a similar thing on this click of profile details. I'm going to go to profile. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to copy conditional formatting and then paste conditional formatting and change this to profile. So when I click on this one, it's going to add a URL parameter up here that says account. When I click on this one, it'll add a URL parameter that says profile. When account is in the URL parameters, it's going to show this group. And when profile is in there, it'll show this group. And when neither is in there, neither of them will show because they're not shown on the page by default. So if I preview this, it'll probably give me an error because I need to go in here and run as a user. No, I have to go back to the redirection because I have it set. I'm going to take that user off is what I'll do. There you go. Now I should be able to preview it. Okay, so neither is showing and I click account and this one shows, but watch what happens when I click profile. Right? And so when you're clicking, when I type something here and I go here and here, it stays, as opposed to clicking the back button when it refreshes, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot to be said for putting, I'm not going to say trying to put everything on one page in Bubble. I would say putting as much of the user's session in one page as possible. Would you say that's a fair way of saying it, Juan?
Yeah, I agree with Tonya. And also will be faster for their navigation. So they don't need to go to another page and load it. And yeah, I think that, in my opinion, is preferable for me and for users to only click tabs and navigate between them. And you will have this kind of feature to keep your data that you type it in an input or something there without being refreshed or lost. Otherwise, you will need to maybe save that data that the user is entering in each input after the value changes, or with a property in the editor that is called, oh, I forget it. That when you edit, it also, when you, give me a second, it is called,
well, I was going to recommend
Autobinding.
Autobinding. Yeah, Autobinding. Right. So that's the next part of this, is using Autobinding to make changes. So I did not set this to be Autobinding. So if I refresh this, you'll see it will clear out. But if I go to the account, it stayed, right? And the reason it stayed is because this is coming directly from the database. Now, if I go in here and make this type of content of type user and make the data source the current user, now I can say on this input here that I want to enable auto binding and I want to change the first name.
You might be on mute, Tonya.
Thank you. So I use the same one as before, current user. So what I'm doing is I'm adding auto binding here, the first name. And in order to do that, I have to have a privacy rule that enables auto binding. So I'm going to use the same one as before. When the current user is this user, then they're allowed to make changes using auto binding to the first name and the last name. Then I come back here and say, okay, so this is enabled auto binding. The field to modify is the first name. So if I preview, so I can change it. I can say Tonya. Then I'll change this one and say Aiossa. But only one of these things will remain if I click refresh. And it's the one that I have auto binding on, this one. The other one, I changed it, but I didn't save it to the database. So when I refreshed the page, it just went back to what it is in the database. Is that making a little sense?
It is. It is.
Okay.
Thank you.
My guess is as you start playing around with these things, you'll probably run into some issues and you can come back and we'll help you debug. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. What else should we talk about? Was there another one? Did I cover both of your last questions?
Flavia, you wanted to know about like how to click edit profile and change all the values on the student's profile.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't make that part of this clear. This is how you do that, right?
Okay.
So you can use auto binding, or you could use a save button. So if I put a save button on here. So I'm giving an input. I'm showing what's already stored in the database by making the dynamic values here and here. On this one, I'm auto binding, so I'm automatically saving the change to the database. On this one, I'm not. So you could do auto binding for both, or you could do on the save button, you could save everything for both. So what I would do here is I would go to data, make changes to thing. The thing I'm changing would be the current user. And I would change the first name to input A's value and last name to input B's value. Right, on that save button. So then if I preview this, click account, I see my first name is right, but I really want my last name to be right. And if I refresh, it's not going to stay because this is not auto bound. So here I change it again and I click save. And now when I refresh, it should be the same. So if I click,
Wonderful.
yeah. And you can do that for any of the fields that you create on the user data type.
Perfect.
What else can I tell you? Or show you?
I have another question if nobody else does.
Anybody else?
Nope, just hanging out.
Nope. Let's go for it.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that we're doing is, so we're using a plugin to enable the user to add tags.
Mhm.
So, we're doing that specifically to have the user tell us what their interests are. So it could be food, it could be, I don't know, soccer, whatever. And it shows up nicely in the data input process, right? But then when we try to display that on the student's profile, once we've acquired all that information, it shows up as text. We're trying to display that information also in the form of tags. Do you know how to do that?
Sure.
In tags?
Do you want to do this one, Juan?
No. Yes, but I didn't hear it properly. They want to
Yeah,
display
so
that
they're-
in tags.
Yeah, they want it
Instead
to
of
look
text?
like tags instead of just
Oh,
plain
okay.
text.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Do you
if
wanna-
you want, I can do it.
Yeah, go for it.
But,
Do you have access to this?
No, can you send me the link?
Yep, I will send you the link.
Okay, meanwhile, in Canvas, we have a plugin for that. So you can use that plugin, or you can use a kind of formatted multi-dropdown to do that. So you will display that as tags, but it is really a multi-dropdown. Give me a second that I can show my screen, and yeah.
I just added you to it and I'm sending you the link here.
Okay.
I'll send it in the Zoom chat.
Okay. No, I just received it.
Okay, got it. You got it.
Okay, give me a second because it is loading.
Oh, bubble.
Okay, I can share my screen now.
Oh yeah, Juan, you're right. So we use the multi-dropdown for doing, yeah, to capture the
Okay.
data. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, give me okay, December sandbox. Okay, you are viewing here the my page, my screen.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we can see it.
So which was the page that you created? It was
I
sharing
created
profile
the
info?
sharing profile information. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we see the wrong screen.
Oh, sorry. You are viewing Nyla's?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Now, properly?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so multi-dropdown. Here you have the multi-dropdown. And here it is showing the format that it will take of each tags. But let's say that this will be dynamic. We will retrieve not like static options. Or let's show it with dynamic, with the static. So when you click here, you will see, do you see the different ones? And you can remove them. And you can style them, for example, from here with the colors. Let's say they will be black and the delete will be red and the tag font color will be white, right? And you can also make it rounded, for example. So it will look more like tags. You see? And if you don't want to have this X here, for example, you are only showing information, let's make it completely transparent. The tag border will be transparent. And the delete icon, I will make it also delete, like here, transparent. And you can make it disable later, but give me a second to show it to you. Okay, it still have this border here, but I can remove it too, right? And here you can pull, for example, a list of text of the user. For example, let's say that will be a text, a list of texts. And will be current users. Do we have here a list of texts? No. Let's say here we have, I don't know, interests. So it will be type text, but a list, right? And so let's say that Tonya, which user was this one?
Yep, that one.
Okay, let's add interest to Tonya. So it will be Bubble, no code, teaching, being so pro.
Thank you.
Okay, and here we will say, okay, we want to pull current users interests, that they are text. So if you hover here, oh, I don't know what happened. Evaluate to a list of texts, right? It matched with this, right? And I will remove the style of the dropdown because it have a border. So I will make it background style known, border style known, right? And I will remove the placeholder too, because it will be only to display it, right? Instead of adding ones.
Exactly.
But I will explain also how to add, right? But for example, only if you, okay. The default value, I forgot to add the default value, will be current users interests. Because one thing is the source of data, because I can filter it right? For example, when you will save data, you don't want to allow all the type of interest, only maybe active ones or whatever. And the other one is the default value that will be displayed there when you have this input. Oh. Current user is, this is another one. Seems, let's log in with the other one. Okay, do you see? And
Yes.
and you can prevent clicking there also. And I will make it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You know, as you were going through this, I think I know what I did wrong. So when you were in the back end, right? You created so you called it interest, and then you classify that as a text, and then you check the box, right? Which it essentially showing bubble to show that as a list.
Okay. Yes. And you cannot change that after that. If you created it, for example, here you created it, for example, interest wrong, and I create it here as a text, but without checking this, you cannot change this later. You need to delete it and create another one. You need to come here, delete it, and create a new one. Also, you can have a different setup that will be a separate database object that will be more robust. So let's say, I don't know, experience. I will say name, the name of the experience, for example, in, I don't know, Webflow, Babel, yeah, Canvas libraries or whatever. And I will say inactive, yes, no, for example. On the user, you can have also these interests or the experience, but in a more robust way. That will be experiences, and will be not type text, will be experiences. And I will say that this is a list. So, for example, give me a second. I will create here a couple of ones. Inactive, no. And the name will be project manager. And developer. And let's say this will be inactive. That will be, I don't know, will be student, for example. So I don't want to display this one based on this criteria, but I will pull all the experiences, but filter by not inactive. So I can copy this one. I will paste it here. And I will retrieve current, sorry, I will say that this is not a text, it will be experiences. And I will retrieve current users experiences. That can be, this is an object, so you can retrieve whatever from there. And I will display the name, not inactive, I will display the name. Also, I will filter these by the, I will say that inactive is different than yes. So if it is empty or no, will be displayed, but don't show it to me if it is inactive. Maybe if you want to do something in your database, don't show these criteria after some time, or I don't know. So instead of, for example, deleting data, you can make it inactive. And here I will say current users experiences. Here, if I don't set the filter, it doesn't matter because the source will be already filtered, but I will do it. I will prefer to have it both just in case, but let's check what happens here. And I will need to add the experiences for the user. That will be, I will add 2. It is this one, if I'm not wrong. Oh no, it's the other one. Okay, here's it. And okay, I will need the Unix ID of them. Or let me try something here. Here, this is a nice trick. Here you can change the search field. For example, you can view an object by the email, I mean, for a specific field. So here you can display how they are shown. For example, the experience is shown by the unique ID, but I will say, no, I prefer to view them by name. Let's say, let's check if it works. Do you see that I am able now to filter by them, by name?
Yes.
I will say student and project manager. So Tonya have, for example, 2 of them, of the 3 that exists. But as is it filtered to don't show inactive, so should show only project manager on my end. Let's refresh it. Do you see? So here we have a separate data type that is experiences, that is more robust than have a list of text. And I recommend you to avoid always using this list of text or numbers or dates, because maybe in the future you will need to add data on top, like inactive or to who belongs that experience or whatever. So you will need to refactor all your database. So I will recommend always to go for this approach, unless you are completely sure that you will not need nothing in the future and use this. But yeah, this is the couple of examples for them. Don't forget that I make it disabled. And basically I do like a design work here to don't show the tag, to don't show border to the tag, like all transparent and no border here and no background to the input, right? The tag has as a background, but not the input, right? Let me make it more clear. For example, the background can be this gray, and you will view a gray and then the tag, right? You see, this is the input, but this is the tag. And yeah.
Perfect. That's really helpful.
No worries. Let's say multi-dropdown experiences. Also, when you click the save button, you can refer of that dropdown, for example, experiences. And you can set the list or add list, but this is another topic. But for now, the multi-dropdown value, right? So let's say this is not only visible, it is not only to display things and the user can interact with it. So when the user clicks the save button, we'll save that list. So let's check it so you can view it. So I will make it clickable.
Oh, so they would be able to edit it?
When they click the save button. So when I click here, okay, I am not viewing more options because I have this filtered by current user experience, but I can do this. So I will do a search for all experiences in my database, but please don't show the inactive ones. So anything that is not inactive, right? And let's say sort them by name. And oh no, will be all the experiences. I mean, if the user is creating their profile, right? So they will view all the experiences, but by default will show at the beginning, here, this default value, the experiences that the user already have, right? So here should be 3 items minus 1 that is inactive. So it will show me two, but the default value will be only 1 that because the user only have 1 active, right? So if I click here, I will view the complete list and let's make student not inactive, for example. So here I will view 3 items and also this one. So for example, let's say I will add developer and I will save here. And if I refresh the page, it shows the 3 items, right?
Mm.
And let's leave only project manager, save. Sorry, so only student, do you see? Student, developer, do you see?
Perfect.
Yeah, I was wondering how I prevent the delete icon, the delete feature. I think it is not possible. That's a good question. Tonya, do you know?
Sorry, do I know how do you what?
Prevent the delete icon in the tag. I mean, I hide it, but how I don't make it clickable to remove, only to add.
Huh, I'm not sure.
I think it's not possible.
I
with
guess
this
only when you, I guess only when you, yeah,
block it,
only when
right?
you uncheck, yeah, only when you lock it, can you prevent them from being able to delete it? Which I guess makes sense because you don't want them to accidentally add something that they can't delete.
Yes, you're right. You're right. So for this one, let's make visible the X. Okay. Any other questions, guys?
No, that was good. Thank you.
No worries.
For
Juan.
going over my questions. I do have another one, but I unfortunately have to drop. It's 10 p.m. here in Buffalo.
A little late. It's a little late to be asking questions. Okay, got it. We're actually going to move, if you'll just hang around for just another moment, Fabio. We're going to move into the after hours portion of tonight's session. After hours is members only. You don't get to see it on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else. If you want to join the after hours session and go off live broadcast and be able to share more freely, then you have to become a member at ProNoCoders.com. Please go sign up. Also, we did just release our Vault last week, which is a compilation of video tutorials that you can browse, you can search, you can find exactly the point that you need in the video to watch in order to answer your bubble questions. So please check that out as well. We will be back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And yeah, I hope to see everybody then. Thank you everyone for watching.